I'm David Annandale, and you're listening to Masters of the Forge.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Masters of the Forge. I'm Camille.
I'm Snorre.
And this is Adam.
And Adam is actually going to be the quasi-protagonist of this episode because just tell them why it is, Adam. Tell them what it is.
This episode is all about the Star Eagles. It's all about me. It's all about my chapter and about how wonderful it is.
Yeah, definitely. It's about the Star Eagles. It's about Adam's custom chapter. We're going to have a lot of fun discussing his fluff and making a bit fun of it.
Yeah, and also, it's also kind of about giving tips on how everybody else can come up with their own Space Marine chapters and tell their own stories too.
Yeah, we definitely hope to, let's say, inspire people's, interest in writing their custom lore. And this not only refers to Space Marine chapters, of course. There's a lot of other stuff out of there you can, write lore about and bring into life on the tabletop.
It's very fulfilling. I recommend it for anybody out there who wants to build their army and make it their own.
Yeah. Now, after this episode finished up, after you finished listening to this episode, we would love to get feedback from you because we want to know if you want to listen to more episodes like this in the future. Us presenting our own lore-related tabletop projects to you, our listeners.
The only answer is yes, though, because
yeah, because sometimes we run out of topics. Then this is all out of our fallback plan.
But I do know for certain that there's one Fandex I would also love to have on this show, and that is Big Jim's Soul Eaters? Soul Reapers.
Reapers, yeah. A shame on you.
Yeah, I know. I'll probably take a beating from Jim next time I'm over in California.
Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about what we did in the hobby since our last episode. Snorre, don't you want to start?
Yeah, I was about to say me. So yeah, last couple of weeks I picked up the Orc Codex. Yay, it's looking cool. And let's see, what else have I done? I played a game last weekend. So it was an interesting game, 2,000 points of Iron Hand's bikes versus 2,000 points of my Death Guard.
Oh, Iron Hand bikes are tough as nails, aren't they?
Yeah, well, sort of. They did have their glorious moments, but towards the end, I'm not going to say I was winning because it could have gone either way, but it's turned into a 6-4 loss for me, but I was starting to reduce the number of squads my opponent had by quite a bit.
Awesome.
So I guess highlights of the game would be, okay, it was a Maelstrom game, so that's why probably the main reason why I lost. I really love Maelstrom missions because the gun line is dead. You have to move around to do stuff, and that makes everything so much more interesting.
Especially for Plague Marines, right?
Well, sort of.
Now, 2 questions. Did you have fun, and do you like the Maelstrom missions?
Yes and yes.
Awesome.
So far I am totally in love with the Maelstrom. I would like to play something different than Maelstrom next time we play games, but we're probably going to go into the Ultra Warbook because, vanilla missions aren't really all that exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, highlights of the game would be I had a Winged Demon Prince on the table, and he had 2 Sucker levels and throws up that really powerful Nurgle large blast poison thing. Gets a hit, so he has a decent chance of killing 2 or 3 of the bikes he attacked, and kills 1 of them. I was like, wow, impressively bad dice. That was like the theme of the game was me having awful dice. And to like soothe my pains a little bit, he goes into close combat the next turn, and he kills about half the squad in close combat, and then they turn and run, and he runs them down. So that was 7 of the 8 bikes just dying to close combat and being run down right away. That was awesome. And that was the point where I made my first huge mistake. I never put him airborne, so I should have done that. Maybe he didn't get killed next turn, which he did. Typhus was put by himself, and he was down to 1 wound when he was assaulted by a tech marine and his tech servitors, which ended up in mutual suicide because the tech marine killed Typhus at the same time as Typhus killed the tech marine. It was glorious, and the tech servitors, they were mind-locked the rest of the game, so it was my loss points-wise, but it was fun to watch. And let's see... The last cool thing was that I had Necrosius on the table, and he was with both Plague Zombies and Plague Marines. They charged into another squad of Iron Hands bikes, and close combat turned into a couple. I think we fought for a couple of turns, and I got a tiny little upper hand, and the bikes ran off, and I ran them down. So another bike squad that fell to rundowns. I killed most of his transports, most of his squads. There was also 2 predators and a scout bike squad that also died. But I was still struggling with 2 bikes, a Land Raider and a captain on bike. So in the end, I might have turned it because I was getting more and more strategic points, and my opponent was getting fewer and fewer. But, it's that crystal ball. You can never see what's happening in the next turn. The game ended after 5 rounds, and it was a very cool game. We both thought it was a really nice game.
That sounds like a fun time.
Yeah.
Sweet, dude.
Last question. Are we enthusiastically pretending to not having had this conversation before?
Anyway. I know. Yeah, that's thank you for reminding me. I did the biggest no-no in podcasting. I was editing the show on my local hard drive, and the hard drive died. So we lost both episodes 7 and 8. In the process, I spent something like 48 hours trying to recover it. Total failure. And we are now re-recording episode 7 and 8, and we made it into one show, so you don't have to listen to Star Eagles for 2 shows in a row.
Yay!
I'm actually really glad for that.
Yeah.
And Snorri, kudos to you for trying so hard to get everything back together and working so
definitely.
hard. That would have driven me up a freaking tree.
Yeah, the annoying bit was that I had the raw recordings for both shows from Adam's point. I had one of the shows from Camille's point, and none of the shows from my point. So I had something to work with, but not enough to make the shows whole again. I
totally suggested that we awkwardly edit that together with you re-recording your parts to sound like fluid conversation. That would be. I'm sure that would have been hilariously bad. That would be something that people in 50 or 60 years still listen to, just because it's like the Manos hand is a fate of podcasting.
hands of fate.
6 weeks after we try to recover everything and such, we're still waiting for me to release the show because it's like redubbing this thing.
Yeah.
That takes forever.
You know what? That's the worst part. We were going to be ahead of the game finally, and today we are recording the entirety of episode 7 3 days before we launch it.
Yeah.
We were ahead of the game by multiple episodes. Now we're back to where we
definitely.
were.
That's definitely the highlight of a streak of bad luck on our turn, in terms of, A, losing all of our backlog to incidents where we couldn't record when we wanted to, and B, just plain and simply losing the content of 2 episodes where we finally caught a breath last weekend and thought that we'd have 2 episodes backlogged again. And that's just awesome.
So, I guess for my week, I am reading the War Boss edition of the Orc Codex, and I am in love. I am absolutely in love with it. I do actually think that mob rule is kind of poo, but I don't care. It's worse for bigger mobs than it used to be, and it's better for smaller mobs than it used to be. So it's almost a wash in my opinion, because I never really ran 30 boys anyways. I always run 20 boys in battle wagons. So and I never really liked using shooter boys anyways. So it's all really fine for me. I love it, and there's so much to it, and I think the game I played with my buddy John kind of defines kind of a lot of what I feel about 6th and 7th edition. So I'm going to kind of run through that really quick. I brought 2 squads of 30 boys. Shooter boys, actually. I paid the extra point just to see what it was like. I ran 2 squads of 20 boys in battle wagons with reinforced rams. And I ran a squad of the new Flash Gits in a battle wagon. Their dedicated transport battle wagon, which is awesome. A squad of buggies, 5 rocket buggies, which are super cheap now. You run 5 buggies with twin link rocket launches for 125 points. That is stupid. And a squad of 5 zap guns. And there might have been some other stuff in there. But the gist of it is we played a Maelstrom of War mission, which I hadn't tried yet. And I used my... the HQs, right. So the main thing is I've got 4 HQs... because I ran a double CAD, double combined arms detachments, and I brought Mad Doc, which obvious, Mad Doc, he's my warlord, 2 Pain Boys, and a weird boy, Warphead Weird Boy. So I was able to, the fact that you can put Pain Boys in any squad is so good, because everybody had saves. Like, the battle wagon would explode. I got saves. I got shot by dudes. I got saved. Like, it's so nice to be able to put Pain Boys in any unit you want. And they can get boss pulls, which is wonderful. Throughout the whole game, I actually only had to make one check on the mob rule, and I rolled a 1, so I don't think that was a good test of the mob rule, because I was able to avoid it so much. I kept on passing morale checks. I don't know what was wrong with me. So the Maelstrom of War missions, here's the thing. From what I can tell, at least the way my game went, it's going to be whoever was going to win anyways is going to win. If you're taking ground and you're killing models, you're going to win. I don't know if you guys have the same experience.
I can definitely relate to that, yeah.
You're going to have luck here and there, or you're going to have cards you can't use. But they let you discard 1 card per turn anyways, so I think that's what that's for. Like, a lot of folks want to just discard cards that they can't use as a house rule. I don't understand that, because they let you discard a card anyways. So I don't know what that's about, but like, it seems like if you're gaining ground and if you're covering your bases, and you're thinking about where your models are, you're going to win as long as you keep doing that. Now, it was a lot closer game than it normally would have been had we gone with one of the other missions. But like at the end of the game, we looked and checked to see if I won the game, right? So we did look and see, and I would have won the game anyways had it been one of the original missions. But instead, it was kind of a give and take, where I had to take risks in order to score the points. I had to move my models to certain areas, and objective secured is great. You can. It is such a huge advantage, because if you want to take an objective at the end of your turn, you just get out with the boys and score that objective before getting shot up by the by the barrage or whatever. So it was a really fun game that I had with him, and I really haven't had time to put up a battle report because I'm just so busy. I'm so busy right now. Right now I'm working on a Grey Knight model for Frontline, a Dread Knight. So I'm doing that in between 4th of July parties this weekend. And I actually took 3 days off next week to work on the Titans.
Wow.
Oh, speaking of 4th of
Yeah.
July, isn't it kind of awesome that we're actually talking about the Star Eagles?
Yeah.
On the 5th of July, admittedly.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
still.
well, at any rate, it's on the holiday, so it's like it's super Merca right now. It's pretty sweet.
Yep.
But yeah, I took next week. I have Thursday, Friday, and Monday, and I am spending the entire time working on the Titans. So the Titans are officially making me about 10 cents an hour because I'm using personal time at work to work on them just to get them done. Because at this point, my reputation is on the line, and I got to do it. It's I don't know, but
Good
that's
man.
me.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I have to do. He sent them to me in October of 2013, and I just have to do them. That's
You
all there is
definitely
to it.
do.
It just has to be done, and it has to be off my plate so I can start working on my Necrons.
You're gonna be so relieved.
Yeah, I will be really. I think it's going to change my mood quite a bit, my hobby mood quite a bit.
Oh my god, you mean that your mood and your hobby engagement can get even better?
Yeah,
I'm out of here. I'm so out of here.
Speaking of that, what did you do in the hobby this week, Camille?
Not much, actually. I mean, I'm still working on the lore of the Astral Spectres. I have finished painting my chapter master, which most of you guys most likely already saw on Facebook.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful, Camille.
Oh, thank you so very much.
I really wish I could paint like you do.
It's been a bit since I had a chance to, actually obsess over a single model paint job that was not a vehicle. Actually, I think it's been a few years now, and I'm glad you like him. Thank you very much, guys. And as you maybe could tell by the way he was presented on our Facebook, he's got quite a few titles attached to him, which will soon enough be explored in an episode in itself, as soon as I'm finished writing the fluff, and as soon as the time is right to have another, our personal lore projects episode. Because this one says Adams, and I totally don't want to disrupt this one with mine. And,
No, that's awesome.
yeah.
I can't wait to look at it.
Can't wait to see how it turns out, to be honest. But yeah, so far I'm definitely having fun with the hobby at the moment, but it's honestly, I've sort of have a trend going on here. I've talked about it with Snorri before the recording, that I have a set amount of hobby time I can spare, and most of that is currently honestly being used up with painting, because I have a fancy 1-year plan and I've been sticking to it for half a year now, and it's just too late to get lenient on it. I just really want to go through with it, and doing good, but still have not played a game of 7 so far. But what can you do?
Alright, well, I guess that's all the excitement we need for one intro. You
Yeah.
want to move on and start talking about the Star Eagles?
Oh, yeah.
There's actually one little bit of errata we have to do. There was apparently some confusion with our last show, because at the club last weekend I was asked, did you really mean that you could take Guevesa as an allied detachment to IG? Or Astra Militarum as they're called now. And because that's pretty much what they understood, and there wasn't just one guy. There was a couple of guys who asked me this question. And of course we didn't mean like that. You can take Guevesa as an IG army themed as Guevesa, or you can take them as an allied detachment to Tau. So,
Yeah.
just to make that clear.
Yeah, I think that's sort of a justified misunderstanding, because I'm pretty sure now in retrospect, now that you mention it, we said that IG and Guevesa, the detachments, are like battle brothers to each other. And obviously that's not the case for Loyalist IG. Nope.
No.
Yeah.
No, yeah, they're not. I wouldn't take commissars or anything with any kind of Govesa.
Except if you use commissar rules as a proxy for some kind of other lore-related
like an
craziness
ethereal
you're
or
doing.
something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could put an ethereal on the table and say that, oh yeah, he is the commissar, because in a way he is, only not quite as violent.
Yeah, not quite as pop you in the face with a bolt pistol issue.
Most badass ethereals ever. Like, with the uniform and everything, wouldn't that be cute?
That would be awesome. Alright guys, we'll see you in a little bit.
Yes, it's time to spread our wings and take to the skies with the Star Eagles.
Hey guys, are you looking for a good hobby blog? Are you in need of a tutorial? Maybe you just want some inspiration to help you get started. Well, look no further than the 40K Hobbyist. Drew is a 40K hobby veteran with more than a decade of GW hobby experience under his belt. Follow one man's journey through the hobby as he dabbles in new experiences such as Forge World Titans, building terrain tables, starting new Space Marine chapters, and much, much more. Stop in for modeling tips, tutorials, bits theory discussions, and just to see some darn cool models. If you have any questions, you can always email him, leave a comment on his blog, or reach him through Facebook. He's willing to do whatever he can to help expand the hobby and make you the best painter you can be. So stop in and check out the 40K Hobbyist at 40khobbyist.blogspot.com. That's 40khobbyist.blogspot.com, or find him on Facebook. Thanks for listening and have fun painting.
Alright, welcome back. We're going to start right in with our talk about the Star Eagles. We're going to begin with some pre-chapter history. The Star Eagles do have a lengthy and actually quite well-remembered past history before the Imperium found them. The reasons for this will become clear as we go through it. So, the colony of Yanchi was formed years ago by two religious sects from the northern continent of Afrique, on Terra, who wanted to escape Terra, which was becoming largely secular. The colony was peaceful at first, but soon the two religions began to feud. In time, war broke out on Yanchi, and nearly the entire population was decimated in an atomic war and resulting psychic surge.
You have a way with words, good sir. Like, saying years ago in 40K for something that is prehistory is sort of daring, I would say. Alright, let's say, I don't know, wouldn't that be like, 15,000 years before current time or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, like 25th millennium, I think, for the golden age of technology.
Yeah, I think we might get a lot of crap from people who have a different interpretation of the scale of time for this one. But I think you're spot on. Just alright. So there was like a religious schism between those two Yanchi colonist factions.
Yeah, they basically banded together to found a new colony that didn't reject religion, and then they got into a fight and many people died.
All right.
Sounds kind of familiar.
Yep.
A pocket of survivors in the city of Bandari seemed to be immune to the psychic surge. The people there soon found a powerful relic buried beneath the city, a great red gemstone. The stone had the ability to negate any nearby psychic energy. It didn't just deaden psychers to the warp, it also had a secondary function. In time, psychers experimenting with the stone realized they could attune themselves to it, giving and taking memories through the mental link. For this reason, the relic was named the Jiwa Zamani, the Stone of Time.
The lessons of the atomic wars were learned very well. The Yanchi developed a simple society which denied itself not only the technological advancements of its previous society, and thus also the things like weapons of mass destruction and,
Yeah, exactly, yep.
But also the religious beliefs of the people. The memories of the stone, also called Mosheha, ensured that no one ever forgot In time, when their world had begun to heal, the Yanshi moved out of the city of Bandari and instead roamed the great continent of their home world. Only their psychers, or wise ones, who were called Mganga, ventured into the city, which became a refuge for emergent psychers among the tribes. The Mganga also soon learned how to transfer memories without the use of the stone itself.
Yeah, this is two important things in this episode, is to remember that the Maganga are the psychers of the Yanshi, who are capable of transferring memories from person to person, and the Mwasheha are equally used to describe the memories that are transferred, and the vessels, the people who hold them.
All right. Two quick questions. So, when you're talking about the great continent of their homeworld, is it like a one continent planet in the style of, what was the name for the
Pangaea?
Pangaea?
Yeah,
thank
exactly. There is only one continent on the planet.
All right, and the other question would be: we're talking about a passage of time of multiple hundreds of years. If you're saying like the world is healing from the devastating nuclear war, right?
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of people they'd hold up for many years, and it is possible in some regions and at some climates and in some heights to survive even during a nuclear winter, or stuff like that. So especially if they've got rations and whatnot. But yes, it was the population was quite decimated, and only they were really starting from scratch with their society.
All right.
In M37, a small explorer fleet came across Yanshi, much to the detriment of the poor Yanshi. It cataloged it and reported it to the Imperium. While they did find some evidence of an ancient decaying crashed chaos ship deep beneath the sea, there was not much of note. The planet was marked to be taken back into the Imperial fold and be used as an agro-world.
And also, from how things are at that point in time, I assume they didn't become aware of neither the high amount of psychers nor of the Masheha, right?
Yeah, there wasn't. I mean, it was the actual explorer fleet. Didn't really. It was more of a cursory glance. They saw some ancient, they saw some a small society down there, but nothing really worth note. So then after, for a little while after that, the Imperium came back in force.
Now, it wasn't just the Yanshi that suffered a bit when it came to being discovered by these explorator fleets, because the locals didn't exactly like the ambassadorial committee's talk of the God Emperor of mankind. Since they've gone completely secular themselves, having the concept of a god being reintroduced was not very popular, so they welcomed these guys and, hey, interesting stuff you're talking about here. Yeah, the Imperium thing doesn't sound too bad. Oh, God Emperor. Yeah, guys, get your sticks ready. The first ambassadors, they kind of died on the spot.
Yep. Yeah, and that you bring up an interesting point. It was like when they landed, when the ambassadorial committees came, they were like blah blah blah, stuff, and the locals were like, "That's adorable." Yeah, we know about that stuff. You have a spaceship. We know what a spaceship is. But then they're like, God Emperor of mankind. They're like, oh, it's one of those.
Now,
go get the spears. We need to chop these guys up into little pieces. Okay.
Now, quick questions at this point. Were they still aware, like historically, that they originally left Earth because it had become secular?
Yeah. All their history is still locked in. I mean, I'm not saying it's completely without error, Obviously, it's not completely without error because it's only good up to the point where they found the stone, so after the Atomic Wars. But they're still kind of aware of their history, yes.
Alright, so that adds a lot of irony to the whole prospect of the
Yeah.
God Emperor of mankind. So,
Yeah, exactly.
like, are you kidding? We left Earth because you persecuted any kind of, secular faith and rather religious faith, in really violent ways, and now you're coming back and you're all like, believe in the God
Yeah.
Emperor of mankind.
Yep, it is kind of funny. They're probably like, really, guys? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
But on the other hand, sticks and stones can break my bones, but exterminatus is forever.
Yeah. The resistance that was started on Yanshi by the locals to try to resist this whole being taken into the fold quickly sputtered out because the Maganga had ordered their people to stop the resistance when they realized the strength of the enemy they were up against. And, well, considering the billions of people that the Imperium can throw at you, then pretty much every fight is lost when it comes to some small backwater planet. So they decided to just buy their time and save lives. And oddly enough, the Imperium never located the secret chamber of the Jiwa Zamani.
Yeah, the stone. Which, it makes sense because it deadens psychic abilities, so pretty much every psychic ability except for the memory transference.
Yeah. Soon, Yanchi became an agri world and was supplying resources throughout Segmentum Obscuris and the battlefront near the Eye of Terror. Terrorist activity began to flare up. Production facilities were sabotaged and equipment was destroyed, and the last straw for the Imperium was the so-called Terror Wake Plague. Cutest
Yes.
undernaming, very 40k.
In 975 M37, a plague broke out on the small world named Terror Wake, within spitting distance of the Eye of Terror. Isn't that a cool name?
It is.
The Imperium took massive casualties from the plague without warning. Nurgle cruisers suddenly struck at the world soon after, crushing the resistance easily. In the aftermath, several gruesome autopsies revealed that the people of Terrorwake had not been the victims of disease at all, but poisoning. The Nurgle attack had simply been akin to flies to a dead carcass. All the food supplying the Terrorwake war effort had come from Yanshi.
Also, they were definitely victims of their own poor judgment moving to a planet named Terror Wake. I mean, come on.
I think they named it that because it was right next to the Eye of Terror.
Yeah, still,
Yeah, it was a bad decision. That's true.
The Imperial Guard, including a few surviving members of the 204th Terror Wake, found it difficult to root out the Yanshi resistance, which was fighting a bloody and savage guerrilla war against the Imperium. For this reason, the Raven Guard were dispatched to put an end to the uprising.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, because the arrival of the Raven Guard spelled doom for the Yanchi resistance, obviously, because, come on, it's the Raven Guard. So, although they fought well, it was really only a matter of time before the Marines of the 4th Company had systematically rooted out and destroyed each and every insurgent cell.
Yeah, it was just a systematic done. They know all about this kind of warfare. The destiny of the Star Eagles was forged in one event. The Raven Guard's 4th Company apothecary Uldris was fascinated with the savagery and the stubbornness of the Yanchi insurgents, and wished to see them in the field, so he accompanied a small detachment of Raven Guard on a raid. During the battle, a veteran in Terminator armor took a grievous wound. Uldris rushed to his side and called the strike cruiser for an extraction. As they were being teleported back to the ship, a Yanchi warrior tackled him. They fought viciously through the warp and finally back onto the ship.
When Uldris was able to pull himself away from the man, guards in the teleport room loosed bolt rounds at this insurgent, obliterating his leg and exploding his intestines on the wall. Typical Space Marine stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And even in this kind of state, the man actually still reached desperately for his lasgun, glaring at Uldris with hate before passing out. And that's when the apothecary called for a stasis chamber.
Is that a code word for I'll be in my bunk?
No.
All right.
And it wasn't for the injured Terminator either. He's more interested in that Yanchi survivor.
It's quite an impressive incident, yeah, indeed, because, you know, the whole tackling a guy in Terminator armor or power armor alone, it's pretty much like, you know, winning a car crash as somebody who walks on foot.
That's it for the prehistory of the Star Eagles and the Yanchi Society. Now we're gonna slip into a segment about the Star Eagles in general. That way, when we go through the history of the chapter, a lot of the stuff that we talk about makes more sense.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back.
Is live life in the hobby? Is live life in the hobby? Narrative gaming is so much fun. That's the way it ought to be done. Is live life in the hobby? Is live.blogspot.com.
And we're back. Now we're moving into a segment about the Star Eagles. We're going to start with the genesis of the Star Eagles. You want to take it off there, Camille?
Sure. So, the Star Eagles are the result of Raven Guard's search for ways to reverse some of the defects in their gene seed. The chapter does have a slightly repaired macronoid gland, which, before a battle, becomes fully active with the help of a drug therapy to kickstart the organ. The macronoid gland is the organ which allows a space marine to survive harsh environments, even the depths of space for a time. So it's sort of like a life support organ.
Yeah, it excretes gross goop onto your skin and protects you, which, and this gland is damaged in the Raven Guard gene seed.
Exactly. So, for this reason, the Star Eagles combat doctrine was developed by the Raven Guard and the Imperial Harbingers to focus on boarding actions and other precision close quarters fighting. So, the way they fight is pretty much like the combo of the teachings of the Raven Guard and a chapter called the Imperial Harbingers, just to make this clear.
Yeah.
Do you have any extra info on the Imperial Harbingers?
They're basically a spacefaring Space Marines chapter who are experts in boarding actions. So
Space Marines in space.
They're Space Marines, yeah. So they're perfect, and I think they do operate in the Galactic North. So it makes sense that they would be. A lot of these things only take cursory glances at the 40K wiki. So if anybody out there is developing their own chapter, a few Google searches is all you need to find among all the hundreds of chapters people have made the right ones to use to include in your history.
Yeah, when writing your own lore, it's always very nice to have some, let's put it that way, like networking with official or obscure but official lore in there. It just gives you an extra level of, depth and possibilities for references that other
relevance.
lore,
lore
conscious people will get, and that's very cool. Right.
So the Star Eagles primarily use boarding torpedoes, drop pods, and air cavalry for support. Lumbering tanks do not fit with their doctrine. In planetary actions, their combat doctrine has a name, Matego Umeme, or the lightning trap, which is a sort of mobile hammer and anvil technique. One wave of drop pods strikes the enemy with a wave of bolter fire and melta fire on one flank. Then a second wave blocks the enemy's retreat. Air cavalry cleans up and supports the rest of the army.
So basically they have a lot of storm talons and drop pods.
Yep, pretty much.
In the heat of battle, it is the Vita Kunde, or the pulse of battle, which the Star Eagles rely on. The Vita Kunde represents the Star Eagles' belief that a battle is like a living thing with different stages which are similar from battle to battle. Star Eagle commanders consider themselves masters of detecting or predicting which stage of the battle is at hand, and their orders should reflect that. For this reason, the Ultramarines chapter tactic are used when playing Star Eagles.
That's right. And I don't know if you guys agree, but I think that's probably the best way to go with this. I haven't seen any Space Marine chapter tactics that best represent that philosophy.
I think it's completely fair, and I also think that people shouldn't shy away from, utilizing other progenitor legions chapter tactics for their custom chapter when they feel that their custom lore is better represented by something else, even if they have like a different progenitor legion.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, because that's kind of what I was getting at here.
Yeah, just look at the Forge World document for their chapter tactics. There's quite a bit of different things going on there.
Yeah, you definitely want to check the Forge World ones for sure. I mean, like the who is it? The Imperial Fists and the Black Templars. Black Templars have completely different chapter tactics than the Imperial Fists.
Yeah,
there's certainly precedent for it, and I think that the Raven Guard chapter tactics would be of no help to the Star Eagles, to be perfectly honest, for their personal combat doctrine.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't perceive it as a disconnect between the lore and the rules, or rather rules as intended and rules as played, if you actually don't follow your progenitor stuff. Because to be honest, I'm sort of bummed about how how Space Marine players tend to rigidly stick to those standards when they're practically playing like genetically modified, or rather engineered super soldiers in space, who should be like, by their numbers and by their resources alone, be super flexible and always have the right tactics at hand to beat a numerically superior foe. I'm personally not even resistant to someone just switching around chapter tactics however he feels like before games. I'm like not averse to that at all.
Right,
because
like,
I feel they should be more tactically flexible than they are.
If you're playing your 8th company, why not use Blood Angels chapter tactics? Seriously. But anyways.
Yeah, only that I don't think that they actually have a set of chapter tactics, right?
Well, I
think
they're using the book. Using Blood Angels book.
Right, yeah. Sure. Okay. This combat doctrine is supported by an intricate and creative administrative structure. The man pulling the strings of the chapter's administration is Akildvana, an ancient man by any standards, who is only alive thanks to the constant care and attention by 1,000 tons of machinery and a legion of servitors, making him sort of a mini emperor right here.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, he himself is not a servitor, or a cyborg, or whatever you would call it. And it is a medical miracle that his mind is still keen and healthy, or is there more to it? Dum dum dum.
Yeah, he is basically, he still has his mind. None of his mind is machine, but machines do administer and manage the health of his mind, which is, the human brain is a very complex organ, a very complex machine, and it requires banks and banks and banks of computers to make sure that the chemical alignments in his brain are kept healthy at all times.
I was thinking about in the lines of, Nixon's head in Futurama, but okay. That's sort of how I'm imagining him.
The Chief Administrator has managed to take part in horse trading with other Space Marine chapters, such as the Raven Guard and Storm Wardens. Their usual stipend of rhinos, las cannons, and even a Land Raider or Terminator armor now and again are traded for equipment which better suits their combat doctrine. Suffice to say, the Star Eagles stables boast a vast number of Storm Talons.
I don't remember which chapter I was reading about not too long ago. It was like a couple of days ago. that was claiming that, these guys have an abnormal amount of Land Raiders in their arsenal. I was like, I wonder where they got that from.
With the Star Eagles.
Exactly.
Nice. That's awesome, actually.
Yeah,
if you remember, let me know so I can actually kind of put that in there.
Yeah, I have to find out.
Nice.
Yeah, and also a weird absence of storm talents and very little drop pods in their arsenal, but they don't mind.
Yeah.
The Star Eagles also boast a rather impressive fleet of black-painted ships, including 2 battle barges and many lighter vessels. Several Scout-class rapid strike vessels are assigned to each barge and cruiser. The Star Eagles' battle barges are actually a special class of vessel called void barges, and boast sensor jamming devices which are capable of fooling even the Eldar. That's impressive.
A bold claim, indeed.
Yes. These devices are rather dangerous since they are tied through the vessel's warp engines when in operation, and are only used when the Star Eagles are about to strike.
Yeah, like they actually have to run the warp engines as if they were actually traveling through the warp in order to use these devices. So it's pretty dangerous. It's like sitting there in your car with in neutral, put with your foot on the gas.
They must be really popular at Adeptus Mechanicus parties.
You mean the parties that they don't show up to because they're afraid of being found out? Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. So
I just find it a little bit conflicting here, actually, if they have to gun the warp engines to use this jamming, because...
Well, it's not like they're invisible. It's not like a cloaking device. It's a... What is that noise? The sensors, if you're on a ship that's being attacked by the Star Eagles, your sensors explode with activity, and you don't know where it's coming from.
Okay, because from the description in the Path of the Eldar trilogy, there's a scene where there's a Eldar Titan shooting its a warp cannon, a distortion cannon, I think it was. And the description is basically that all the Eldar around kind of hear that screaming demon thing in the back of their head. It's like, okay, so if they're invisible, when you're using a warp drive, there's like, no, that can't be. But yeah,
and I think I have to fix the description in the Codex too. I think it
does actually make sense now.
Yeah. So moving on.
Moving on. Yanchi itself is surrounded by a cloud of orbital defenses, including Battle Fortress Angami, which serves as the chapter's fortress monastery. So it's in space, right?
Yes. Yeah. They do have a lot of administrative, offices and stuff on planet, including Akil Bwana's skyscraper, or whatever you want to call it, life-sustaining thing.
The Wayne Building. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
So, just to get this straight, they are also responsible for the whole planetary administration, right? So there's no civil governor independent from the Star Eagles.
I forgot to look it up before the show, but there was a period of time in the Imperium. Oh, the waning. There's a thing called the waning where the Imperial forces were at a minimum, and Space Marine chapters were forced to govern entire, paradigms of the Imperium themselves. And most chapters kind of, as time went on, shirked those responsibilities in favor of actually doing their jobs. The Star Eagles didn't do that. They've actually kept their protectorate and actually expanded it and improved upon it. So they are
a bit of like a mini Ultramar.
Yeah, it's kind of like Ultramar in that sense, where they directly govern the area and they are in charge.
Yeah, so speaking of that, alongside the Star Eagles, the humans of Yanchi have been folded into the fighting forces of the Imperium as well. The Yanchi Fusiliers are the region's Imperial Guard Regiment, and Battlefleet Yanchi, Gesundheit, supports the Star Eagles in large engagements. Both forces are often directed to the Eye of Terror battlefront in order to assist Imperial needs there.
Yes. So from this point on, we're going to go through the companies of the Star Eagles. We're going to do this as quickly as we can, but I think the company structure really tells the whole story of the Star Eagles and what makes them unique.
Yeah.
So the first one we're going to talk about is the 13th Company. It's a fleetingly referenced company in official documents. The details are always vague. In actuality, the 13th Company represents any action in which the Star Eagles make use of Xenos allies.
Or mercenaries? Do they make use of mercenaries or something like that?
Yeah, they definitely do. So, like any kind of rogue trader or mercenary group is also referenced as the 13th Company.
Okay.
Yep. The 10th Company are the Reserve Scouts. This company splits its time between training in Yanchi, attached to other battle groups, and in the field fighting orcs. In fact, the 10th fights orcs so much that some warriors actually wield orc choppas in combat. The 10th Company boasts all 6 of the chapter Storm Ravens for transport and support purposes.
Definitely not related to the fact that you had like a lot of orc chopper bits left over when building your marines,
Yeah,
right?
dude, I totally. Yeah, my scout, I have a scout squad, and I do have choppas sprinkled in there, and it looks kind of awesome.
Get to the chopper!
And I remember you guys, when we first recorded this, had the idea of doing like a Storm Talon or Storm Raven as a Red Cross, or I guess we'd call it the Red Double Eagle ship for the apothecaries. That sounds like an awesome idea. I just wanted to throw that out there because you guys had a great idea.
The 9th Company is, as it should be, a reserve devastator company. It is the first proving ground for the Star Eagles. If it seems like an Astartes is well suited for advancing further into the chapter, they are promoted to the 7th Company. If it is clear that they are too indoctrinated in the cult of the Emperor to be welcomed into the fold, as in receive the Moasheha, then they are sent to the 8th Company.
Yeah, so 8th Company is the reserve assault company at quite a suicide post. Marines are thrown into the enemy over and over again until they die, which is quite atypical, but we'll get into more of those reasons for that later on. Let's just say that the chapter is a bit bigger than it should be. This post is a grim task for Captain Michinya and... Captain Michinya, did I get this right?
Machinja, I think?
Machinja,
I don't think they
okay,
do
right.
the Y in Swahili.
Okay, this post is a grim task for Captain McNinja and the...
McNinja! He's awesome.
Oh, great.
That's awesome, and he is too, because he's 8th Company.
Officially
McNinja, I love it.
renamed. Okay, alright. So, the actual name of the guy is Captain Machinja, but yeah, McNinja said nicely. And the apothecary is attached to the 8. One Star Eagle who does revel in his time with the 8th Company is the red armored librarian Mganga Moto Mvitaji.
Yeah, this guy's awesome.
Yeah, in fact, Mvitaji is almost an outcast in Star Eagle society because of his odd spiritual streak, but he revels in unleashing psychic flame throughout the enemy ranks. Quite a pyromancer, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's got the red armor. He doesn't even don the blue of the Librarius. He is definitely kind of an outcast, and he kind of hangs out with the 8th Company, and he almost does what he can to keep them alive, which is really kind of annoying to Captain Machinja or McNinja because Machinja has kind of accepted the fact that his post is as kind of a, death incarnate for these poor people. So it's just interesting. It's almost even though he's kind of crazy, Witaji, the librarian, is almost a foil to the kind of terrible thing that this company has become. And I think that this whole story of the 8th Company does help reflect that the Star Eagles aren't without their sins. They're not Supermen. They're not this great and moral group of people in a galaxy of darkness. They're
not the Ultramarines.
Yeah, they still have their dark streaks.
Next up is the 7th Company. It's a reserve tactical company. The 7th Company is the final test for Nestaris. If they are deemed worthy, they move on to the 6th Company. And again, if they fail, they are sent to the 2nd Company.
Yes. They're told it's a great honor, by the way, to skip so many companies.
And of course, after 7th Company, you have the 6th Company. Da-da. Strange.
Wow.
Yeah, it's also a reserves tactical company. It boasts a huge number of tactical marines, and all of them are, upon indoctrination, blessed with the Moashea memories. There are certainly more than 10 tactical squads in the 6th, which keeps the chapter's administratum busy juggling squads to make sure the squads with the same markings don't show up together at the same post. Which would be kind of like, hey,
It'd be a little
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure I saw the captain of the 6th Company over there, so
Why
if
is
he's got an honor squad there, why is there an honor squad over there?
You know, I've got a perfect idea for a backup plan here. Like, if it should happen out of accident that, like, the leaders of the same squads or the same squads, like, meet among other Imperial troops and they go like, huh? Like, you know, with exclamation marks over their heads, Metal Gear Solid style. The backup plan should be that every Star Eagle Marine has like the option of pulling out some kind of Alpha Legion symbol, like infiltrated and run away. Like, you know, just as an excuse.
That's fantastic.
And the other guys are like, oh no, the Alpha Legion, we're gonna raise our bolters real quick while those guys who are totally not our battle brothers, as it turns out, run
Fire
away.
randomly around
Yeah.
them.
So, just to finish off the 6th Company, it's led by Chief Librarian Mganga Simba, and he is de facto captain of both the 6th and the 7th Company.
And this kind of is because of his role as a, he makes sure that there's quite a lot of librarians which accompany the 6th and the 7th in order to do the proper memory transfers. And the 6th Company, you know, they're still a little bit green, having skipped, you know, a couple companies anyways. So they're more likely to kind of be lost in combat, and they don't want to lose memory. They don't want to lose Mosheha memories, so that librarians do accompany them into battle quite a bit, simply for the purpose of recovering memories when they're lost.
Yeah. So, did you take up the opportunity to paint a baby lion on his shoulder pad?
No, I haven't made a model for Maganga Simba yet.
All right. Oh, by the way, speaking of Swahili names, I think we should point out that all the names you're torturing us here with are like actual Swahili names, and we apologize, like not up ahead, but in the middle of it, for any kind of mispronunciation we've got going on here.
Yeah.
We are no experts on the pronunciation of the Swahili tongue, so feel free to point out any kind of mistakes we are doing here, so that in the future Adam can do A, do it right, and B, feel ashamed.
Yes, please let us know if we're effing it up.
And of course, Camille didn't have the balls to ask experts for an opinion.
Yeah, for undisclosed reasons. For the 5th, 4th, and the 3rd battle companies, they are all under strength, so that they may be more easily boosted with reserves in order to stay flexible. The 5th are the Home Guardians, a garrison force posted aboard Battle Fortress Angame. The 4th are the Masters of the Vita Kunde, the Pause of Battle. They are the chapter's tactical geniuses. So they're like, I don't know, like a talented kid class or something among the Essos.
The captain of the 4th is actually very young and inexperienced in battle. Like, if he were to actually fight a orc war boss, he would probably die. He is basically a space marine nerd, and he actually is one of the few captains, actually the only captain in the entire chapter who makes use of an honor guard or a command squad, just to protect him in combat, because he sucks so hard at it. But he is a tactical genius.
Does he believe that love can bloom on the battlefield?
The third chapter, Camille. Third chapter. Let's move on.
All right. The third, on the other hand, are known for their bravery above even that of a regular Astartes.
Yeah, they're super brave. They're the ones that I'm actually using in my models. I have the third company.
For them being actually like the ones represented by your models, they are not really detailed, are they? Like, you know.
No.
I'm sort of curious because there's a lot of detail going on here with your lore, but the ones that we're actually playing are
they're pretty. I mean, that's just it. They're Space Marines. And the other ones I would feel compelled to come up with like rules for and stuff. So, you know, it's all a genesis of I'm buying these models, and you know, the whole you know, collection of models is a weird situation that we'll get into later.
Yeah, definitely. So, you want to take away the honor of doing the first and the second, because I feel that those are the ones where you would talk about the most.
Sure. So the second company is the Facade Battle Company. The only Astartes in the second company with Mosheha memories is Captain Mbueha himself. All other Marines are oblivious to the true nature of the chapter. The second is stationed aboard their own battle barge, and they are never at home.
Which is awesome, because he's more like running a cover-up than running a battle company.
Yeah. Whenever the Star Eagles are called to engagements where there is heavy involvement by the Inquisition, Ecclesiarchy, or other chapters, they send the second company as a model example of what a true Codex Astartes force should be. They even have a chaplain. So yeah these guys are great.
Even have a chaplain is awesome. Like,
yeah, I really like that one. And like you said, it's the poster boy company of this chapter, because hey, everyone knows the second company. They are all over the place and doing the good work and being like perfect soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
So that no one really suspects that that's the only company that actually resembles anything that's even close to a Codex Astartes. Because, well, you know, level of psychers and the whole mind swapping thing, and like, yeah, that doesn't go over too well.
Yeah, and I think that it helps. There's also the fact that it helps further the narrative that they're building, because the other companies are under strength, so they can say, "Oh, we didn't want to send you that company because it's not built up enough. We need to send you, we have to send you a full company." So the second, here we're giving you a gift of this full company to use in this engagement.
We're sending you our best.
Mm-hmm. And true to a true Raven Guard successor, it'll be fully supported by some 10th Company reserves as well. So just
to keep the impression of a Raven Guard successor where nothing at all is out of place.
So the first company is the veteran Kivuli Company. All members of the first company are Kivuli Marines equipped with temporal warp distorters, the technology for which was salvaged from a long ago battle. The temporal warp distorter gives the Kivuli armor two abilities. First, it allows the suit to look forward in time to see if it arrived safely via teleport. If it did not, it will adjust the coordinates before it allows the teleport to send it over. Which I'm sure that the Ordo Chronos would absolutely love to get their fingers on that.
I smell tech heresy here.
Possibly. Second, it allows blasts from the veterans' weapons to phase through cover. So it basically paints the target with infrared sensor and kind of detects when to allow its bolts to phase through the cover. So it actually you need line of sight, but the amount of cover is meaningless. So that's basically what represents my Legion of the Damned. Instead of being Legion of the Damned, they are members of this first company. And that's it for the companies. I hope that helps folks kind of get the gist of what the Star Eagles are before we move into the actual history of the chapter. I
definitely think so. I think it's a very telling bit of lore. Like, And tell us a lot about the progression, or let's say career of a Star Eagle Space Marine.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to point out is that I really love how, they have that cover-up company where they send all the Space Marines who don't fall, I think, during their service with 8th Company, although they are, despite being, too deeply indoctrinated by the Imperium and by their predisposition to be initiated into the secrets of the whole memory transfer thing, the Masheha. So it's a bit like the opposite of what the Dark Angels are doing. The Dark Angels have an inner circle that know everything, and most of the chapter knows little to nothing. And here, on the other hand, you sort of have an inner circle of people who are being kept in the dark about the true nature of the chapter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a small group, but it's not. It's weird because you do have these Masheha people going around the planet telling stories and keeping the oral history alive, but it's not just an oral history. It's almost like a big oral history of the planet, and it's kept fresh by the Masheha, which is interesting. It's an oral history that doesn't degrade.
It's very much like the Eldar, what's it called again? That Eldar network?
The Spirit Stones?
Yeah, Spirit Stones are what keeps their soul from going to Slanesh, but this once they die, the Soul Stone is, or the Spirit Stone is transferred, or the contents of the Spirit Stone is transferred to this kind of network that they have on their craft world, where the spirits of the dead Eldar kind of float around and help do things, and sometimes even get to do cool stuff like driving Titans around.
Nice. And it's these memories that keep the Star Eagles interested in their personal beliefs are a lot more to do with justice, true justice instead of imperial justice, and not so much just honor, but I don't know. They're more interested in destroying despotic regimes and having their own idea of morality beyond the Imperium, which comes from my reasons for starting the chapter, anyways. But more on that later. I think we need to take a break, refill coffee, and talk about the history.
To the coffee machines.
Whoosha! Alright, here we go. Hey, do you guys know what kind of sweetener Inquisitors use?
Inquisitor Stevia?
Yeah, that's right, god. Alright.
That was just too obvious, man.
Yeah, I know.
I was about to say, what sweeteners? Inquisitors? I thought they dipped their everything they had in salted demon tears.
That's true, for the power.
You have a horrible sense of humor.
Power voodoo. Alright. Here we go. So, Apothecary Uldris was convinced the Yanchi could be forged into a successful Raven Guard successor chapter as part of the 23rd founding. It became clear that the Yanchi stock was far more impressive than even Uldris had given it credit for. The Mechanicum approved the project.
The chapter's early work was against the forces of chaos, interdicting their fleet operations throughout the galactic north. However, their true calling was the pacification of corrupt Imperial officials, Batmaning the place up all over the galactic north.
That's true.
In the year 94 M38, a young man with Masheha memories named Haiditi was taken from the toil of the kelp fields to be made into Astartes. Being of the Masheha made him immune to much of the brainwashing which usually robs an Astartes of the memories of his early life. Haiditi conspired with the Mganga, the Wise Ones, on the Star Eagle's homeworld of Yanchi to slowly indoctrinate all Star Eagles into the fold of Masheha. Although it was more difficult and more dangerous, this slowly became a reality, and by the time the Star Eagles could boast a full 10 companies in 298 M38, every tactical marine and veteran was Masheha.
Yeah, after many crusades throughout M38, which forced the chapter to wreak untold bloodshed throughout the Segmentum Obscurus, Chapter Master Hydethi vowed to lead his brothers to a greater cause. The First Justice Crusade saw the downfall of many local imperial despots. In every case, the ruler was found to be corrupt, either in their administration of their holdings or in their faith to the emperor. Yanchi-born administrators were left to rule temporarily in their place.
Convenient,
the
right?
ability, yeah, it's very convenient. Akil Bwana had absolutely nothing to do with the finding of all this evidence at all.
No, definitely not. So, the first speed bump in this Justice Crusade was the Zappo liberation. Marshal Guard Fawkes was the Zappo's de facto ruler, and the Star Eagles had produced evidence of not only the Marshal's heresy, but also that he was a yet-to-be-revealed lord among the ranks of the Khorne war host. Enraged, he ordered his troops to die to the man fighting against Star Eagles, and die they did in massive numbers. The bloodshed put a great deal of strain on the will of the Star Eagles rank and file, as well as Hydethi himself.
And made
this is
Khorne
hilarious.
very, very happy.
Yeah, definitely. I like this part because he's like, how dare you accuse me to be a Khorne warlord? And I'm now gonna throw all your troops into bloody close combat against your space marines, and their chancellors are gonna be slaughtered to, I don't know, prove my point?
Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne.
And that's really it, right? So the Star Eagles, and particularly Akil Bwana himself, are not stupid. If they're going to target a warlord or a leader, let's just say, for sake of argument, that it's a bunch of crap, right? That this guy was not a Khorne worshiper, and he was not going to be a lord, and he had absolutely no ties to Khorne himself. He pretty much could have been, and is a total, I don't want to say douchebag, but he is a total douchebag. So, in essence, even if none of that is true, it might as well have been true.
So it's not outright lies, but it might be embellished a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. The person that they targeted deserves their targeting, for sure.
Not long after their victory, Chapter Master Hydethi received a rare and troubling communique from the Inquisition. He was to not only purge the world of any traitors, but the entire DeSapo Imperial Guard Regiment, the entire roster of DeSapo administration, and the family of these individuals. So yeah, they're doing it thoroughly. These executions were to be performed publicly and with fire. So, I think I've heard that before. Execution by flavor in North Korea.
Yeah.
And of course, the Star Eagles had to do it personally. Hydethi tried to choose his most hardened and pragmatic battle brothers for this year-long painful task. However, no Moasheha blessed Astartes left DeSapo with an unburdened soul.
So the situation here is that I think all communiques from the Inquisition are rare and troubling, and B, well, there was really no refusing the order, right? And I think Hydethi knew very well that refusing the order could very well spell the doom of the whole chapter and the system.
Yep. So they and it's almost as if the Inquisition is kind of starting to question their motives and
testing them.
It's almost as if the Inquisition is testing their loyalty here.
Yeah.
They were not found wanting, but they were definitely
trouble
affected. Yeah, and don't forget that the Moasheha memories are going to still be passed on from person to person as time goes on. So this bitterness over having to do this is going to continue for generations to come. The memories are too precious not to use, so they actually do use them, and it's not forgotten, and it's continued on, and it does affect future generations.
Mm.
Even though it's just memories, it's not actual you know, you don't move on with, you don't pass on your, you know, your whole self. It's not like a personality is transferred from person to person. It is just their memories. But even still, you know, as the Astartes are developed, as they're taught, if they learn this knowledge, it does affect them in the same way, because they are taught to respect human life, and they are taught to, you know, treasure it, so that when they learn of this, it's kind of a tough nut to swallow. So, all right.
Yeah.
So Hydethi was certain that they were getting the attention of the Inquisition. The assumption was made stronger when the Adeptus Terra installed the ecclesiarchy as the rulers of Disapo, with designs of transforming it into a cardinal world. Hydethi saw this as a direct political assault against his nearby homeworld of Yanchi.
It's sort of a double standard here, because you could accuse the Star Eagles of, you know, implementing their own rulers in the wake of their Justice Crusades. And
oh, definitely. It's definitely a double standard for sure.
Yeah, just saying. But on the other hand, just the sheer fact that they did take in those experiences and memories into the collective consciousness, what I was going to say before, but I'm a bit late with it, shows a great strength of character. Like, you know, not being selective about the memories that enter the pool. So
Yeah.
kudos for that.
Cool.
Throughout the latter half of the First Justice Crusade, the Star Eagles were largely successful, though they tried not to make too much noise about it for fear of raising the hackles of the Inquisition again, because that went so well the first time. The constant walking on eggshells soon began to take its toll on the Star Eagles, and when they came across an orc-infested world on the extreme southeastern edge of their protectorate, they fell upon the greenskins with renewed zeal, and many lulls were had. After the soldiers had spent many months destroying the orc threat throughout the Kovalov system, Hydethi ordered his forces to focus on the orcs' spacefaring resources. By 228 M38, the orcs had been corralled on a few planets in the system, essentially marooned with no way off their worlds and damned to a lifetime reenactment of Gorka Morka. Hydethi never ordered the incineration of these worlds and soon called an end to their 19 years crusade. Pretty much just, you know, storing some punching bags for later use.
Yep, and that's where they send their 10th company for training. So, the orcs are there as a buffer zone for other threats, and also for training purposes.
Yeah, they're pretty much like a satellite state.
Yep.
In a political context, only that orcs don't do politics.
Oh. And, you know, every once in a while, the orcs will manage to build a few cruisers, and the Star Eagles will come in. So even though the 5th Company is a garrison force, they're kind of a garrison for the nest as a whole. So they often will just travel there in their cruisers to see if the orcs have developed any kind of spacefaring ability, and they destroy it, and then they go back home.
And of course, orc space cruisers are excellent places to train boarding actions.
Definitely.
Absolutely, Camille. Absolutely, or Snorri. Absolutely.
Jawohl.
Jawohl.
Awesome.
Sorry. M39, though, was a troubling time for Star Eagles. In 198 M39, an Imperial black ship was detected approaching the Yanchi system.
If you don't know what a black ship is, it's the ship. They are the ships that go through systems collecting psychers to sacrifice to the Emperor and serve the Empire.
Yes.
Imperium, sorry.
Now, Chapter Master Hydethi instructed the very creative Chief Administrator Akil Buana to delay the ship at the edge of the system with as much bureaucratic nonsense as possible. Being an ancient and very creative man, he was able to keep the black ship at bay for several weeks. That is actually impressive. Meanwhile, Hydethi disappeared along with the strike cruiser and the skeleton crew.
So I'm assuming that, you know, Akil Buana sends a message to the black ship. Yeah, we have a plague on the planet that we're trying to take care of. It'll be locked down soon. No, it's not terribly fatal, but, you know, you don't want your psychers getting sick. So, like, one thing after the other, just sending communiques saying, oh, sorry, you can't come yet. We have this problem or this problem. Or
and
whatever.
of course, they have to make triplicate applications for landing, and of course you have to have a couple of forms to get the forms to get the forms.
Yeah, we don't make these rules. These are, this is administratum. We can't help it. I'm sorry, we can't help you here. You have to fill out these forms.
And also, we have a radiation leak here. It's very dangerous. All right.
A few moments to lock it down. All right. Just as the chief administrator's red tape was beginning to unravel, the system was beset upon by a fleet of orc cruisers. Who didn't see that coming?
Surprise!
Surprise! Although the black ship was barely scathed in the battle, a single orc cruiser managed to loose a barrage of boarding torpedoes before being carved to pieces by the black ship's lances. 2 hours later, the black ship exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from the surface of Yanchi. After a millennia of service to the Imperium, however, Chapter Master Hydethi was never heard from again.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to live that one down. That's just a bit obvious.
And let's be honest, the guy had to die sometime.
In 554 M39, a cold rogue planet was detected rolling through the nest on a direct trajectory to Yanchi itself. After finding the planet, which they named Zuka, infested with demons, the Star Eagles and Yanchi Fusiliers attacked in full force. Every company in the chapter was recalled to fight this threat to the world, even the second. During this war, the Star Eagles suffered about 50% casualties and the entire second company was destroyed. Oh no, not the second company! You could basically describe this as the Star Eagles' very own battle for Ultramar, wouldn't you?
Yeah, this is basically a very big threat, not just to the Star Eagles, but to the entire nest, which I don't think we actually described yet. The nest is what they call the Star Eagles Protectorate from the waning. That's what there's an electronic frontier surrounding the entire thing, and they call it the nest.
The turning point of the war came when, with the help of a squad of young battle brothers of the Ninth Company, Chapter Master Njosi was able to kill the demon host's commander, who happened to be a powerful greater demon of Khorne. Sadly, it was the felled body of the demon which eventually suffocated Njosi to death. The drugs kickstarting his mucranoid gland had long run out before he had been found. The mortally wounded young devastators who had made the victory on Zuka possible were interred in ironclad dreadnoughts.
Yeah, imagine a battle between, a chapter master and a greater demon, demon weapon and power sword clanging together on the battlefield. And the greater demon standing over him, about to strike him down, when all of a sudden, out from behind a hill, jump a few rapscallions with multi-meltas, cutting into the greater demon, and the demon falling and basically suffocating the chapter master to death. Unfortunately. But when he falls, he heroically impales the creature in the heart with his power sword, killing them both simultaneously. Well, not quite simultaneously because he suffocates to death, but whatever.
The Star Eagles also found a treasure trove of ancient human technology on the planet and took some of it for themselves before sending the rest to Terra. Hey, here's those crates we promised you. Happened to be another set of crates that kind of went the other way, but
some little administrative snafu. That never happens with the Star Eagles.
Exactly.
You know what? As a compensation, we're going to lend you out the second company. Alright. So, the Star Eagles rebuilt themselves over the next few decades, as they had to. With the help of Chief Administrator Vana, still kicking around at large, who was by now on full mechanical life support, Chapter Master Kujazi began to form the modern Star Eagles Space Marines chapter. Dun 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 dun! It was decided that Genestock would be safe to bolster the reserve companies, and that the battle companies would remain under strength. It was thought that this would allow the Star Eagles to focus more on their strengths and improve the flexibility of their battle companies. Ballsy move, though.
An event in late M39 truly defines the precarious path the Star Eagles tread, however. This is an event which is now called the Shadow Mantle Disaster. A small Chaos fleet began to gather at the Marduk system on the galactic northwest of Yanshi. The Star Eagles mobilized their local assets in order to respond. Seemingly by happenstance, the inquisitorial vessel, the Doomrite, also responded.
A few teams from the first company were performing teleport attacks on the enemy ships when they reported that grey-clad loyalist Terminators with vicious force weapons had joined the battle. Shortly thereafter, Star Eagles lost contact with several teams. None of those teams could be extracted before the sabotage ship exploded. Many irreplaceable Kivuli veterans were lost.
With the Chaos Fleet crippled, the Star Eagles assaulted the crippled and burning world below, which the Doomrite was bombarding with wild abandon. Once on planet, the enraged Star Eagles mowed through the enemy like men possessed, which is very unusual for the Star Eagles, as you mentioned before.
They're super pissed off right now.
Yeah. The normally cool and measured Star Eagles chased the foes who fled before them, routing the enemy whether it was tactically sound or not.
Now, keep in mind that this is the same group of people with memories of using bait tactics against the Imperium during a guerrilla war hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Like, they're making these terrible mistakes regardless of actually having memories of using tactics like that. Suddenly, the cultists and traitors inexplicably turned on them. The Astartes assumed the enemy had regained their morale and were ready for another fight, cursing themselves for not listening to the lessons of the past. However, instead, the enemy fled heedlessly past the Star Eagles, who were able to cut them down to a man. Star Eagles didn't have long to wonder what had caused their enemies to flee towards them.
That's kind of understandable, considering that several strange silver-grey-clad Terminators with gilded accents strode into view bearing glimmering power weapons. They were cutting through the cultists and civilians with equal abandon, vomiting entire clips of bolt ammunition into the mass of fleeing humans. The Star Eagles slowly fell back, herding the frightened humans towards extraction transports. The Terminators followed them implacably, continuing to mow down fleeing cultists and civilians. Like you'd expect the Inquisition to do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they saw them. And they could be corrupted by the demon influence on Marduk.
Well, yeah, pretty much Grey Knight's standard procedure, right? So, you know. Oh, I hope that isn't too big of a spoiler that those strange silver-clad Terminators with gilded accents and glimmering power weapons.
Don't even know who that could... Ordo O'Malley, what?
Awesome. Many transports had already taken off in earnest before the arrival of the Terminators. However, when a squad of Terminators arrived at the dust-off point of Tactical Sergeant Adili's transport, also being loaded to capacity with survivors, the sergeant ordered his brothers to continue loading the ship. He stepped forward between the Terminators and the survivors. One of the Terminators spoke up. "In the name of the Emperor and the Inquisition, you will stand down. These humans must be cleansed, and you shall submit yourself to our custody for memory augmentation." It's not really an augmentation, it's just wiping. So the Space Marine Terminator said, and then in High Gothic, "We are the Inquisition Space Marine, make no mistake."
Adili sighed deeply and smiled secretly to himself. A chance, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to prove his mettle and fully embrace the edicts of his culture. He chuckled. The Terminator said,
"What could possibly elicit mirth in this dark hour?"
And Adili replied, "Terminator, this is no dark hour. It is the greatest moment of my life." He tossed his bolter aside, raised his chainsword, and pointed it at them. He pressed the activation button. Sergeant Ideally did put up a very good fight against these Terminators, but he did die that day to save a handful of human survivors from the cold judgment of the Inquisition. And he is held high as a hero in Star Eagle society, however, only those who know the Mwasheha. So there are actual, giant stained glass windows on battle barges and on Yanshi, honoring this man or this Astartes for his heroism. Although only nobody really knows. So the Inquisition shows up. Like, who's this guy? Just a guy. He's a Star Eagle. He killed dudes. Who are those gray clad Terminators in the back? Oh, Chaos. Those are Chaos.
Yeah, Iron Warriors, obviously.
Yeah,
you see the
Iron Warriors.
Yeah, definitely. No.
So, and that says something about the Star Eagles, right? One of their greatest heroes is someone who gave his life to save 150 common folk from the Inquisition. So, from the judgment of the Inquisition. So,
Quite salamandry.
It is very
much so. Yeah.
The end of the Shadow Mantle disaster was the destruction of the Doomrite by a swarm of Chaos escorts, which the Star Eagle's Shadow Barge did just about nothing to prevent. They're just like, yeah, it's your fight. You take it. They merely obliterated what remained of the escorts after the Doomrite was a glowing cinder in space.
Whoops.
Oopsie!
Hey, I thought you had guns that could take care of those things. Oh, well, I guess you didn't.
Oh, we're having a little bit of a communications malfunction. What is this static coming from our warp engines? I don't even know what's going on.
The Star Eagles continued in this vein for many centuries, taking part in another Justice Crusade, fighting orcs, and also against the forces of chaos in the Gothic War. Throughout those centuries, the Star Eagles used their enemies to their own benefit. They used the orcs, which they allowed to live on the southeastern edge of their territory, as a buffer for more dangerous foes. They allowed the system of Marduk to fester in Chaos Taint because of a mysterious and lifeless Necron tomb ship was detected at the edge of the Black Star Nebula, very near the system. The Star Eagles would not be forced into another full-scale war without every possible advantage being taken beforehand. Very pragmatic.
Yeah, they're not going to allow any, deep incursions to occur, but they are also going to, they're going to monitor both areas and make sure that the enemies are fighting each other rather than themselves or affecting their own protectorate. So the Necrons and the Chaos, they can fight over their territory if they want and use up their resources. The Orcs can fight each other down in, but if anything tries to advance further than that, then that's when they'll commit their own resources.
Historically, that was before 6th edition dropped, right? Because now they have to fear alliances of all kinds.
That's true. So in recent years, the real issue, the real difficulty, or the real threat is the inquisitorial presence in the nest, and at Yanchi in particular has grown. It has become harder and harder to fight off the questions and prying. Even the wily and ancient Chief Administrator Bwana is running out of tricks. Likely for this reason, Chapter Master Chui ordered the Third Justice Crusade. This time, the crusade was to range far and target not only Imperial worlds, but also secretly Xenos worlds as well. Not to eradicate them, but to tear down despotic regimes, the same as with their Imperial counterparts. Even in his own mind, Chapter Master Chui believes it's only a matter of time before the Seekers of the Chapter will be found out, and he'd very much like to get some good soul-cleansing work done before that happens. So the Third Justice Crusade is almost a last, desperate attempt to justify the existence of the Star Eagles and try to do some good in the galaxy before everything comes crashing down.
Very fitting in with the general mood of the end times, aka the turn of the millennia.
Yeah, I'm trying. This is my attempt to try and, again, not make this a feel-good, touchy-feely, haha, we're awesome, we're gonna be nice chapter or story. It's, there's still this hopelessness that even the hope is buried in a hopeless act.
And that pretty much brings us into the next part here, which is, why did you make the Fandex?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about that after a short break. Be right back.
Hey, Masters of the Forge listeners, are you looking to expand your Warhammer 40,000 gaming group?
Do you want to start a 40k gaming club in your area?
Then what better way than to advertise on the Masters of the Forge podcast? And all that we ask of you is that you email us the full text of your advertisement, including the region in which you live, and any contact information people can use to contact you.
We will have one of our many tech servitors read your advertisement on the air, and we promise not to make fun of you.
Though we can't always predict the actions of our servitors, you really can't find good help these days.
No, you can't.
Welcome back. The reasons that I developed this Fandex had mainly to do with the fact that I was collecting Space Marines and I wanted more out of the experience than just I have Space Marines. Ah!
Yeah, you wanted to personalize the experience, right?
Yeah, and this is when I kind of started going more in a narrative bent, and you see, I've always had a kind of a problem with, when I first started, understanding what the game was about. And I think a lot of Americans, I'm not sure everybody the same as for everybody, but like understanding what 40K is kind of about. And I think it was when I started to listen to Deep Strike that there could be more out of the game than just playing the game.
You're welcome.
So I thought, well, if I want to come up with a story for these guys, I kind of need to make myself like them. This was before I'd gotten into the fluff and the lore, right? So I viewed the Space Marines as a very bro-fist, white guy, bravado, entity, and that irked me.
Honestly, that is sort of a misconception, but it's a very understandable one because I think that is the picture that a lot of Space Marine players reflect of them. And also, the whole Space Marine deal about the Adeptus Astartes can be very easily misunderstood as just the kind of excessive masculine bravado you're describing here. That's because I think that U.S. Americans are not trying to hark too much on that, but you guys don't have too much of a taste for the British grimdark and more of a taste for other aspects of space opera. And something called Space Marines just has a different ring to it for you.
I'm just going to say one thing when it comes to what Camille is looking for here. Americans have the Duke. We have European grimdark.
It doesn't help that the Ultramarines for such a long time have been the poster boys of not only Space Marines but 40K in general. And my perceptions of the Space Marines were definitely painted by the Ultramarines and the artwork rather than actually reading any of the novels. So I saw it as, look at all the Caucasians. The big, strong Caucasians shooting bolters at people that don't look like them. And that irritated me. And the only chapter that kind of went against that was the Salamanders. And it was a error in their own mercanoid gland, which caused them to have, because of the radiation or whatever on their planet, it became overactive or something, and it was because they had a problem with their gene seed that they were dark skinned. It's like, really, really, guys.
I think Masters of the Forge can pride itself to be a very positive hobbyist podcast, not bashing too much on GW, and just in general not being about that. But seriously, in this case, GW really. I mean, right. It wouldn't even be so bad if that's how they were introduced into the fluff originally. But first, they just had dark skin. Like they looked, the salamanders were painted very much look like Africans. And then I think around 4th or 5th edition, they had the whole retcon where their skin became like coal black and their eyes are like a glowy red, and it was all written off as a defect and as radiation. And honestly, that's a very bad move.
And I don't think it wasn't conscious. I'm sure it wasn't conscious, right? We're not going to accuse them of conscious racism, right? But it is a little messed up.
Yeah, it is.
So I wanted to make a statement kind of with my chapter and say, okay, no, these are, even though, let's be honest, in 40,000 years or 20,000, whatever, there probably will be no real fluctuations in race. We're all going to kind of, with all the, we're going to breed ourselves into one basic kind of group race, really. Not that we are different races, really, technically speaking, but, we're all going to kind of have the same skin tone and everything in 1,000 years, let alone 20,000. But I digress. Instead, I chose to have my chapter come from Africa and have a very Swahili feel to them. Even though I tried my best to do some research, but I'm sure it's still it still looks like some white guy put together some fandex, But I tried to do my best, and not only did they not was their skin color not due to a defect, but it actually is healing the gene seed of the Raven Guard instead of hurting it. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of was happy about kind of flipping the tables on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely a very positive outlook on that whole aspect of the thing, and I personally really like it. To be honest.
Yeah, and also but that again is why I kind of had to do my best to try and add those grimdark elements, where they're not perfect though. They're not superheroes. They're still Space Marines in a grimdark universe.
Definitely. And also, just harking back to the beginning, despite what I said in the beginning of you talking about how they came to be, the whole, big white man shooting guns at things that don't look like them, that is undeniable. That is something that you can't quite explain away with, cultural sensitivity or whatever. That's just, that's a fact.
Yeah. So, I don't know, I think what might be a good thing to do is kind of roll into, if folks want to build their own Space Marine chapter, I would look at, this is what I did. I kind of built a list that I wanted to play. I tried it out with I used my orcs as proxy at first and got into kind of the lists I liked to use. So I eventually came to really like the idea of tactical marines and drop pods, which, allowed me to get objectives and have lots of bolters on the field. I kind of am a sucker for bolters for some reason. I love just this accurate weight of fire on an enemy. I found it very useful against demons. Demons do not like massed bolter fire at all. It tears them up real bad. So I play lists that I like to play. It doesn't have to. I would almost do the list before the fluff in some ways, because you have to enjoy playing the army.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I built a combat doctrine for the army around the kind of list I wanted to build. So that's where the air cav and drop pod list came from.
This point actually might sound a bit ironic from a Fluff First podcast like Masters of the Fort, because, we're mostly about the lore. But we actually advise that when you're, starting out with playing 40k and not having too much insight into how different troops of your chosen army actually work out on the table for you, it might be a good idea to, hold up on writing aspects of the Fluff involving their, combat specializations until you have a firm picture of what you have fun with on the table.
Right, and it's not like what's good or what. Apparently, right now with 7th edition, my list is very, very good, and it's almost a dick list. But to be honest, you want to have fun with the models, and you want to have fun with the game. So it's a dichotomy almost, where you have your story, but you also have your game, and it's almost like, though, that the combat doctrine doesn't have to really. It doesn't have to matter as much as the story itself. They don't have to be so tied together, even though in my case it actually worked out very well.
Mm. I mean, with the shifting, with the way that editions and Codex releases shift around what is good and what is not, it is a misconception in itself to start out with buying whatever the flavor of the hour is anyway. But I'm just saying that your fun can just be as someone new to the game, your fun can be just as easily spoiled by picking whatever looks cool to you and accidentally just picking up a ton of crap.
Right.
I am definitely the expert on that subject because I decided that my first army was going to be the Tau Empire in 5th edition.
Back in 5th edition, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you can find a weaker army in 5th edition. Maybe
Sisters?
Yeah, okay. But Six Sisters aren't really that army because Games Workshop never really cares about those. They
I don't know,
get a
dude.
fan.
The Sisters of Battle against the Tau, they outflank with the Dominion and incinerate the poor Tau. Rending heavy bolters. Da, 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 ah!
Yeah.
Awesome.
But seriously, Tau in 5th edition was not fun to play.
Oh, I bet, dude. But I guess that's it. I mean, the only other genesis of the Fandex was my wife wanted me to paint a purple army, so I did. So there was that.
You could always have played the Hawk Lords.
Hawk Lords, Lords were an option for me, but I wanted
they're purple and gold, so they're awesome.
And you know what? The Hawk Lords are also a spacefaring chapter too. I didn't realize. They use like airplanes and
there's
stuff
something
like that.
about purple and space as it seems.
It's true, and birds.
And birds.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. Are you guys ready to close out the show?
Yeah, I guess.
That was episode 7 of Masters of the Forge. Thanks for joining us.
Be sure to check us out on Facebook and what else can we do? iTunes reviews, I guess.
Oh, please give us iTunes reviews. We'd really appreciate that. Get us up there and looking fancy next to the other podcasts.
Exactly. We don't have a Twitter, but feel free to tweet about us. That's not a problem for us. We take that gladly.
Before we close out, I wanted to give a shout out and thank you to Snorre and Sonic Rob for reading my Fandex when it was in its early stages and giving me all the fluff help that I needed to make it make sense. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I didn't realize when I started writing this that it would turn into a bigger and more fun relationship with the community.
Yeah, as it turns out, you writing this code was actually yours application, an unintentional application for this show, because if I hadn't been introduced to it, then it probably wouldn't have occurred to me to actually ask you if you would want to be the third seat.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to think that this was like a calculated thing on my part. Like when I finished the Codex, I kind of just spammed all of my venues. Like when Snorri responded to my post on the Overlords for assistance with reading the Fandex, and I never contacted you guys to be included in the show. It didn't occur to me, to ask.
Yeah. For my part, it was just like, hey, someone's tried something interesting and want to get some feedback. Well, I have time.
Yeah. You were just like, yeah, why not? I'll read your code, and that was really cool. So I really appreciate it. Thanks, you guys.
And we're very glad about this crazy coincidence. I mean, it's great to have you aboard.
Yeah, I'm super happy to do it. I'm super busy. Super busy.
We all
but
are.
You know what? I'm super happy to do it. So I guess until next time, folks.
Play the game the way you want to.
You betcha.
This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com. The music used in this podcast was made by Podod of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission.
Let's be honest, the guy had to die sometime.
Let loose a barrage of boring torpedoes.
Aww.
We only play Kenny G in the compartment. That doesn't really juice up the Space Marines for combat. They had to get rid of that one.
Yeah. So
Entire clips of bolt ammunition into the mass of fleeing humans. The Star Eagle slowly fell back, herding the frightened animals towards extraction transports.
did you just call the fleeing human animals? You just said animals.
I did.
Yes,
Yeah.
you did. And it's
It's
hilarious.
understandable because you heard animals
And
you know?
cattle and vomiting.
Yeah. Vomiting entire clips of bolt ammunition into the mass of the fleeing humans. The Star Eagles slowly fell back, herding the frightened humans. There we go, yeah. The Star Eagles slowly fell back, herding the frightened humans toward.
One Star Eagle who does revel in his time with the 8th Company is the red armored librarian Mganga Moto Mvitaji.
Yeah, it's Fritz.
Yeah?
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop
That's like a
Okay.
machine gun salvo of sneezing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy's awesome. The chief administrator's red tape was beginning to unravel. The system was beset upon by a flirt of Lork Lucre. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's start that again, shall we? Speaking of that, what did you do in the hobby this week, Camille?
Get No, just joking.
So I think the airwave friendly version was Bupkis.
Nah, joking, of course. Love you, man. Not much, actually. I mean, still working. Pretty much like, winning a car crash as somebody who walks
As someone on a Segway?
Yeah.
So that's it.
Don't
for
get
the
me
prehistory
started on
of the-
segways.
Yeah, well, I was trying to make a segue until you broke in. Stop it. So, that's it for the prehistory of the Star Eagles.
For this reason, the relic was named the Jiwa Zamani, the Stone of Time.
Ooh.
Spooky noodle.
Definitely.
The lessons of the... Oh, sorry. God damn it. Go ahead, Camille.
I basically said my part about what just happened. Mother of am I confused?
There we go. It's okay.
All right. No, there was actually no real part attached to my statement of
No, I mean, the next section is yours. I started reading
Oh.
the next section and it was yours. I apologize.
Oh, you did? I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
The lessons of the atomic wars were learned very well.